Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Anthony from Strong Men Coaching. For the last 3 years, I've been working with a specific client, and I'll refer to him as Jeremy. Now, Jeremy is 40 years old. He has two children, a boy and a girl. He has a wife. And during these last 3 years, have been, you know, has been interesting for me as a coach to see a man suffering, to hear a man suffering, to understand what he is going through and how to help him has been a challenge for me because Jeremy is a man who he's smart. He has a lot of capabilities. He works, he's a professional, he's educated, has a degree, and he has a strong desire to be a good man, to be a good husband, and to be a good father. The unfortunate thing is that Jeremy has been abused by his wife, both physically and verbally. And this has happened in front of the children more than one occasion. So you have to ask yourself, and this is what this video is about. Why would Jeremy or any man put up with this type of abuse? I don't like to necessarily use this saying or this what do you call it? A a saying. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's what happens a lot of times with many of my clients. Oftentimes they know what they should be doing, but they're not doing it. So in working with Jeremy, I asked him recently, why are you willing to continue to live this way? Why are you willing to continue to put up with the abuse? And I want to give you his answers and perhaps give you a little insight into his mindset, his beliefs that are keeping this man where he is at and unhappy and unsatisfied with his life. So let's get right into it. For him, it's someone to come home to. Now, he is stating, his statement was that he has someone to come home to. And this reminds me of another client who I had who also felt the same. And this is why I feel inclined to share this, because for many men, they're so afraid to be alone. They're so afraid to come home where there's no one there. And I remember myself this is something that happened to me. Not that I was afraid to come home to an empty house. This is what happened to me. And it happened to me after my deployment to Iraq, where I was away for 13 months. And 2 months before coming home, which means I was still in a combat zone, which means anything could have happened to me, my then wife said, told me, informed me that she wanted a divorce upon my return home. So when I returned home, I came home to an empty house, meaning no one was there anymore. My things, my belongings were there. I lost my dog, and it was just me. There I was, alone for the first time after being in a relationship for 13 years, married for 12. So I know exactly what it's like to feel lonely, to come home to an empty home. But let's get back to Jeremy, that he is a man who is willing to be hit by his wife, which in fact, a story he shared with me where she slapped him and he wears glasses and they went flying across the room. And his daughter witnessed this. He is willing to deal with put downs where his wife uses the terms, I wish you were, or I prefer to have a man who X. And I think one of the terms, if I remember correctly, was, I wish I was with a man who was better with finances. Think about that statement for a minute. It's a put down, and it's she in her mindset is already looking down upon him. And as I've said many times, previous videos perhaps and past podcasts, that when a woman loses love, respect, and admiration for her partner who she once did, once that is lost, it's almost impossible to ever recover from. Now, I said almost impossible. So there's just a little sliver where things can change. But now that she has this mindset towards her husband, towards the father of her children, now this is just one of many statements that she has said to him, comparing him to comparing him to her sister's husband who makes more money, go on more trips, do different things that she wants in her life. And she wants him, Jeremy, to do it. And putting all that pressure on him. So he's being physically abused. He's been verbally put down. And the reason why he's willing to do this is to have someone to come home to. Now, not only do you have to think about who she is, his wife, as a person who's willing to say that to the person she supposedly loves, who she's in this marriage with, that she feels that that it's completely okay. There's nothing wrong with saying those things to him, because she thinks if I put him down, he's going to shape up. He's going to do what I want him to do. And the way to get somebody to do something that you want them to do is not to put them down. Maybe perhaps that may work in the military. I'm a Marine and I went and served in Iraq in the Army. I know what it's like to be in the military. I know what it's like. Believe me, the Marine is in me. But you don't put people down to build them up, especially the person that you're supposed to love and be there for and want the best for, and to have a better example. And he is willing to deal with this, to have somebody to come home to. And it's very similar In fact, it is the same, not similar, it is the same of another client I had in the past who she disrespected him all the time, his wife. She never was informing him of where she was at, what she was doing, these sorts of things. That it's not a sense of control, it's a sense of care. That's what you want to do. You want to share. Here's where I'm going. Here's who I'm with. So forth and so on. You want to share your life with. It's not a matter of control. And for her, she wanted to drink and she wanted to spend more time with a friend who lived very close by. And that's what she wanted. That's what she wanted. And when he was asking for, hey, the kids are asking for you, or hey, we want to know where you're at, or we want to know when you're going to come home so we can start a movie or have something to eat or what have you. She never replied. Comes home at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's no respect. She's never going to change. And then he would come back to me and say, oh, Anthony, we had a great dinner. We had a great night out. We had sex. I said, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. And what happened? Goes back to the same thing. He sends me these messages. Oh, she's back to the old thing. She wants to spend time with her friends. She's not letting me know what's going on. This and that. She's not going to change, which leads me to the next point. Things can turn around. This was Jeremy's second point, that, hey, my wife's getting a coach. She's learning more about herself. She's learning how to communicate. Things can change. And just as I mentioned a minute ago, that's this one little hope, this sliver that she's going to change. That finally, for the previous client, she's going to start saying, hey, honey, I'm going to be out with a friend of mine. I'll be home by 10. I'll see you then. I'll see you and the kids then. She's not going to change. Because in her mind, she's already thinking, you're trying to control me. But when you're married, your wife wants you to know where she's at. Why would she want to keep that a secret? She wants you to know. She wants you to know. That's caring. That's caring. That's, hey, I'm going to a friend's house. I'll be home and, I'm going to pick up something. I'll be home in 10 minutes. You don't show up in 10 minutes. People start wondering where you're at, what's going on. You're not in the hospital. You're not in an accident. Something didn't happen to you. That's caring for you. It's not controlling you. It's, when we're starting in a relationship, we do share that information. We do share, hey, where we're going, what we're doing, who we're with. But then all of a sudden it becomes a problem. And that's the thing, is that somebody now wants to do something else and doesn't want you to know about it. And now, why? Why the change? So for Jeremy, he looks for these slivers of hope. These slivers of hope that, hey, things can change. Look, she's getting a coach. She's doing this. She's doing that. She's not going to change. A person, man, woman, who already has it in their mind that they actually believe that they can say things to put you down, to physically abuse you in front of the children and never apologize for it, is never going to change until they want to, especially when the person that they are combating with, their significant other, tries to get them to share with them, hey, can I know at least where you're at? Hey, can you not do this in front of the kids? To that person, to the person who is not wanting to improve, and then somebody that significant other tells them something to them, that's a command. That is them admitting, hey, you know better than me. And no person's going to want to admit that. So the more that person says, hey, can you not do that? Unless they finally see it in themselves, like truthfully and honestly, they're never going to change. And so my client in the past, they're divorced. It was just a matter of time. Now he's home alone and he's had to deal with it. And it's tough. But once he understands how disrespectful she was being, how much she would rather be with her friends than with him, how much she would rather be with her friends than with the family, why do you want to stay with such a person? And oftentimes people think things can turn around. And he would come back to me and say, hey, oh, Anthony, we had a great night out. We had a date night. We had sex. We did this. We did that. Once a woman loses love, respect, and admiration for the person she's with, it's nearly impossible to recover. Nearly impossible to recover. And going back to Jeremy, he kept going back as I was talking to him. Why are you willing to live this way? He goes back, or he replies, he's looking for these little slivers of hope that he can now be with somebody who is respectful, who is loving, who appreciates what he is doing. It's never going to happen. But he holds on to this sliver of hope. And what's the next thing that he said? She's a great mom. She's a great mom. And that that to him is a reason to continue to take on the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the emotional turmoil, because she's a great mom. Because she's a great mom. Oh, yet she may be a great mom. She may be a fantastic mom. She may be one of the best moms that ever was around. But yet she's not. Because somebody who's willing to abuse their significant other, their husband, in front of their kids, that's not a great mom. Someone who's willing to put their friends and their drinking in front of or as a priority than their kids and their family unit, that's not a great mom. In both of these cases, they looked at how great of a mom their wife was, how they saw it. So for him, she's a great mom. Oh, she does this for the kids. She does that for the kids. She does this. That don't mean nothing. How is she towards you? And why are you willing? Once again, why are you willing to accept this sort of behavior? Because she's a good mom. If you think she's a great moms do not abuse their significant other. Either way, man to wife, wife to man. No, that is not a great mom. She is not a great mother. How many times have she said to you, honey, I love you, and gave you a big hug and kiss in front of the kids? How many times have she said, hey, I appreciate what you do, honey, what you do for us and the family in front of the kids? Because what goes on in the house is impacting those kids. And those kids, especially that little girl, seeing her mom slap a man, slap her father, how is that being a great mom? How is that setting an example for that little girl in the future? And how about the little boy? What if he ends up thinking, Well, my mom slapped my dad, I could slap whomever. So for him, right, for him, it was staying together as a unit. And these are the thoughts and beliefs of many men who are willing to put up with this sort of treatment because for them, they came from divorced families. And they didn't want, their goal was to, no, I'm going to have a unified family. I'm going to have a family that's going to stay together. And for whatever image they're putting out there that, oh, well, we've been married 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or whatever, that they want to show everybody, show the world, show their family, we never got divorced. We're still together. But yet, behind closed doors, he's being abused. He's a worker. He started a business. He's making more money. But yet, he's a man with very little self-esteem, very little, maybe there's some self-esteem, but very little self-worth. That it is so important. His dignity, he has no dignity to where he would rather have somebody who's abusing him. But as long as he has someone to come home to, that he looks for that sliver of hope. And year after year after year after year, he's just looking after, for the last 3 years, it's been the same story, the same record over and over and over again, just looking for these little slivers of hope. And that's what someone who has little self-worth is just like, man, dude, let's stick it out. She's going to change. She's going to change. She's going to change. No, she's not. And then, well, she's a great mom. Great mom. Yeah. Let me imagine for a moment what it's like for when you come home. She's attentive to the kids. She's cooking for them. She's making sure they're doing their homework and she makes their lunch and does all these things. But I almost could guarantee that you're ignored. She's not coming up and giving you a big hug and kiss and welcoming you home. In fact, she's probably ignoring you. In fact, she's probably mad at you for some little thing that you didn't do the way she wanted you to do it. But yet, you have no dignity, no self-worth, no self-honor to stand up and to say no more. No more. You're not going to speak to me in that manner anymore. You're not going to do this to me, especially in front of our kids. And he has to change his mindset to know she's not a great mother. She's not a great mother who's willing to pass down a generation of physical abuse. Because if she is somebody who reacts and can hit somebody, perhaps that is what she was exposed to. And perhaps that's what her parents were exposed to. And now, yet another generation that's been exposed to physical and verbal abuse. No, she's not a great mother. But how, right? How can this change? And the only way it can change is if Jeremy, my other client, and many of my other clients finally understand their worth. And maybe you can relate to this video, but maybe it's time now that you know your worth, your value, your dignity, your self-respect, your honor as a person, to finally say no more. It's not to deny your responsibilities, your as a father, it's not to deny the things that you should be doing. It's now gathering what has always been in you, because no one deserves to be treated in such a manner. And I know from personal experience as a child living in an environment of violence, of disrespect, of negativity, of verbal abuse and physical abuse. And I see where there was lack of dignity, lack of self love, lack of honor and worthiness, where people continue to believe that someone can change when the truth of the matter is, unfortunately, they will not change in the environment that they're in. Are there examples? Certainly. And people like to hold on to that one little thing to say, we're going to be the exception to the rule. But then you try and talk to them a few years after or years later, and they don't want to talk to you because exactly what you said was going to happen happened. And they don't want to admit it because nobody wants to admit when they're wrong. But that's part of growth. And that's okay to be wrong. So know your worth. Know, reclaim your dignity. If you are a man in this situation, draw the line in the sand. Because I guarantee you, if it was the opposite, that my client Jeremy slapped his wife across the face and her glasses flew across the room. I told him this one time. He'd be in jail. And then what kind of example would you be for your children? Would you think she's a, you know, so if you couldn't even see yourself doing that, why would you even be willing to put up with it yourself? And the only conclusion is that understanding your self-worth you have not developed or have not acknowledged your worth. And of course, this story goes for both men and women. Don't get me wrong. I focus on men and helping men live their lives to the fullest. But of course, this is happening on both sides. But it should not be happening to either men or women. But now it's time for you to know your worth, to reclaim your dignity, to reclaim the love, and to examine why you have these beliefs, to where you're afraid to come home to an empty house. You're afraid you're holding on to this sliver of hope. Why? Who are you trying to impress? What inner child are you trying to, or maybe you came from a divorced household and your absolute goal was to to get married and to stay married for life. And you want to hold on to that dream, that hope. But it's unfortunate. We have to accept some things, some goals that we truly want in our lives. Sometimes those things just aren't going to happen. But you have control to make a better life for yourself. Be the example for your children so that they never allow themselves to be in this type of situation, to tolerate these types of this treatment, the negative treatment, physical and verbal abuse, because his kids will need therapy for a very long time. Why cause more pain to children, your own children? So think about these things. And I've been helping men for 9 years in developing their self-worth, developing the things they need to live better, fulfilling lives. Contact me if perhaps you're in a situation like this, and it's time to move forward. It's time to move on. It's time to make those difficult decisions. It's gonna be difficult, and you're gonna need support, because you're gonna want to go right back to where my clients are looking at these slivers of hope. Oh wait, man, we had sex. Oh wait, man, we had a great night out. Oh wait, we had a great date night. And they're holding on this sliver of hope. No, that's that low self-esteem who's willing to face the fear. It's all fear. Fear of being alone, fear of this, fear of that, fear of the unknown. No more. No longer living in fear, because that's what it boils down to. I know I can help you, but now the decision is yours. Reach out to me. Information's in the description. I hope this isn't your situation, but if it is, think about these things and be willing to make the difficult decision for yourself. And if you have children, for them as well. All right. I'm Anthony from Strong Men Coaching. And until next time, stay strong.